Oh, come on in. How you doing today, Mr. Gooney?
Doing good. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. First of all, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that you're a very busy person, and the fact that, being a father and all, you came out here, I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it's no big deal. I love seeing Maya perform in school, so I'm really excited to see what you have to say for me.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank you for first of all, raising such a wonderful daughter. In my classroom, she is incredibly well behaved. I've never had any issues with her. Nothing along the lines of misconduct. She's never been to the office. She's also very respectful and she's very kind. All the other teachers at the school have nothing but good things to say about her, which if I were a parent, I'd be very proud of, just because that's kind of hard to find in a 6th grader, just because they tend to misbehave a lot. They're trying to find themselves and they act out a little bit. And lastly, your daughter is incredibly smart. I did not expect her level of intelligence out of a 6th grader. She very rarely does she ever struggle and ask for help. But when she does struggle, she'll usually ask her classmates first, and then if they can't help her out, she'll come to me, and then usually she picks it up very fast, and then she kind of goes back on her way, and she finishes up all her schoolwork.
Wow, those are just great things to say about her. That means so much to me as a parent. Thank you for that.
Anytime. But first of all, part of the reason why I wanted you to come to the parent-teacher conference was because I wanted to tell you about some of the assessments that I performed with Maya.
What kind of assessments did you perform?
Okay, so I performed 4 different types of assessments. One for phonics, one for vocabulary, one for fluency, and one for comprehension. For the phonics, I had her do a spelling test. I gave her grade level words, and she had to spell them out. For the vocabulary, I gave her a word meaning test, and for the word meanings, all she had to do, she had grade level words, and then there were 5. She had to answer the definition of those 5 words correctly. If she got 4 of them, she would go up to the next grade level. If she got 3 or more wrong, she would stay at that grade level. And then for the fluency, I had her read a passage about the water cycle, and just depending how well she read, how many errors, just kind of based off of a minute. And then for her comprehension, I had her I had her answer passage questions. Some of the questions came directly out of the passage. Some of them had to be answered from her prior knowledge, both of which she did very well. But for phonics, it's a method of teaching reading and spelling based upon phonetic interpretation of ordinary spelling. So it just depends how she can hear it and how she spells it, knowing the English language. For her vocabulary, it's a list of collection or words or phrases that belong to a language or a technical field. For fluency, it's the freedom from word identification, problems that might hinder comprehension in silent reading, or the expression of ideas in oral reading. And then for her comprehension, the definition of that would be a constructive interactive process involving 3 factors: the reader, the text, and the context in which the text is read. So it just depends how she reads it and her interpretation of it. Some of the areas that I noticed that she did very well in for fluency was she read very confidently, she read very quickly. Most students who read quickly tend to make a lot of errors, and then students who read confidently tend to not read as fast just because they're trying to make sure that they get it all correctly. But Maya happened to do both, and she had very few errors. For her vocabulary was way higher than I expected. I did not expect that kind of performance from a 6th grader. And then for her comprehension, she knew a lot of prior knowledge about the water cycle. And I remember her telling me that she just wasn't really big into science. So the fact that she did so well with this passage really caught me off guard, and I was really proud of her. And some of the areas that I noticed that she needs some growing in, that she could definitely benefit from, that would make her reading better. One was double consonants. So during the spelling test, there were 5 words that she missed, and both of them had double consonants, whether that being MM in commotion, PP in opposition, RR. Those are some of the words that she misspelled, and I noticed that in multiple times. And then another phonics area that she messed up in was silent letters. So the H in chlorine, she misspelled that word in her spelling test. So I noticed that this might be something that she might struggle with, whether it being the letter E, H, G, the PHs, something that might be silent. And then lastly, for her vocabulary, something that I noticed that she kind of messed up a little bit in was out of context. So that whether that being the clues that are not inside of the text itself and just having to use her prior knowledge. So there are some interventions that I would really like for you and mine to do at home. There's 2 of them that are for phonics, and then 1 of them is for vocabulary. Both the phonics are for double consonants. The first game is roll the die. So you take a 6-sided die, and then you cover each number with a piece of paper and a piece of tape, and it's going to be double consonants. So P, P, R, R, M, M, S, S. She rolls a die, and then you're going to have a word bank, and then from that word bank, you choose 1 letter or 1 word that has those double consonants. She just has to spell it out. And then for the sound checkers, which is the other game, you would do this game with her after she's gotten comfortable with the die game. So what you end up doing is you take a checkerboard, you write down words that have the double consonants, and then for her to be able to move on to that next square, she had to spell the word correctly. And if she doesn't, she had to move back. So obviously you want to play that game once she has a better conceptual understanding of how to spell those words. And then lastly is her vocabulary is out of context clues, which is what I just told you about. What I would want you guys to do is dramatize them. So you're given a word, and then you have to use sentences and phrases to describe that word, but you don't use the actual definition. So if the word was annoying, you wouldn't use the word annoying. You would use phrases like, "Oh, Patrick bugs me so much. He gets on my nerves on a daily basis." Phrases that are synonyms that are kind of as if you're beating around the bush, but you don't. Then she'd have to guess what word it is. And those are the games that I would want you to play at home with her.
Okay, well, could you email these so I know how to do them?
Oh, exactly. That's what I was actually planning on doing. That way you could have it. You'd have some guidelines of how to play the game, and then some rules, and then from there you guys can take it.
Perfect. How long and how often do I do these interventions?
Okay, that's another thing I'm really glad that you asked, because some people usually would just play it and then they kind of just go from there. So the first game for the vocabulary, the dramatizing, and then for roll the die, I would want that to be at least 2 times a week for an entire month, whether it being after work or on the weekend if you have some spare time. And then if you notice that she's not doing as well, you can email me, and then if I notice that she's not doing so well in class, I'll email you, and then I can let you know, hey, you might want to bump this up to maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times a week. Maybe 20 minutes at a time. You don't want to take too much out of her and get her tired out. Exactly. And then for the dramatizing, another reason why I want you doing that one more often, maybe for 30 minutes at a time, is I notice Maya is very shy in front of her classmates, and I don't want to throw her into the ocean and then have her just be in front of all her classmates. I'd much rather her be comfortable in front of someone, obviously her parent, and just her to kind of open up a little bit, and that way when she comes into the classroom and then I do my interventions, she'll be a little bit more comfortable and she can kind of just dive right into it. The areas the strategies that I want to use in my classroom, there's going to be 2 for vocabulary and then 1 for phonics. For the phonics, it's going to be focusing on consonants again. It would be a game called Double Scoop, and it's pretty much a board game that I found online. I make it myself, and I just play it through, and it's going to be pretty much what you were doing with the double consonants. She has to correctly spell the word before she can move on to the next piece. As for the vocabulary, she'll be doing context clues, a little thing that I found online again called semantic mapping. You take one category and you just kind of brainstorm all the different kinds of ideas that you think of when you hear that. So if you were to think of alligator, some of the clues that you kind of put on the outside: scales, salt water, fresh water, cousins of crocodile, things like that.
Okay.
And then lastly is vocab Jeopardy. This is something I want her to do with the class, just 'cause it's a little funner, maybe on a Friday. And it would just be kind of going over the vocabulary, just kind of preparing for the vocabulary test. But outside of that, that's pretty much all you really need to know. If there's anything else, have any questions?
Oh no, I think you covered everything I need to learn.
Okay, well honestly, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Again, I love having Maya in my classroom. She's an exceptional child, and you've done a wonderful job raising her.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the time.